Hi there, I'm Vicky and welcome to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about something that I am personally passionate about, and that's learning disorders in academia. Now, in my title, I probably said something to the line of women with learning disorders, me being one, something like that. And the reason why I want to focus more on women is that unfortunately, when it comes to being diagnosed with a learning disorder, women are usually underdiagnosed or not even diagnosed at all and undersupported when it comes to their diagnoses. For me personally, to admit to the world and to myself that I have a learning disorder is something that I couldn't have done 2 years ago, 6 months ago, maybe even last week. Um, I've always struggled, honestly, to accept my diagnoses because I am a woman in academia and especially in a STEM academic area or profession. And I'm also a woman of color. And honestly, we still live in a pretty sexist world when it comes to women's intelligence and having this thing that honestly, when you see it at face value, you may think, um, is she capable enough to handle her academics? It's kind of something that you always want to hide about yourself. But I had to like think about this and like realize that my channel, one of the biggest aims that I wanted to create it for was to help people in academia, to help you, give you the right information, a right support, kind of empower you with enough knowledge when you enter university or even high school, that you are knowledgeable enough about what you need to do about your academics so you can achieve as much as you want to achieve in those spaces. And one of the most under recognized and under supported groups in academia are women with learning disorders. And I will be doing those women a disservice if I don't share my story, if I don't advocate for them, if I don't try to create awareness about their voices and their needs in academia. Honestly, for me, this video is a starting point for something bigger. I'm saying out loud, but I honestly would want this video to be a starting point for us as a society to start supporting women who have learning disorders in our academic systems. And if I'm graced with the opportunity to do so, I would love to be an advocate for women with learning disorders and just trying to let them see firstly that your intelligence is not linked to your disorder and your dreams are not linked to them as well. You are able to achieve as much as you want to achieve if you're given the right support and if you're given the support that you deserve. Before I even start my story, I want to point that out, that I am speaking from a place of humongous privilege. Like, I am so blessed and so grateful that I went to the schools that I went to, that I encountered educators who were in tune with my needs as a student and who were willing to be my advocate in points where I couldn't even speak up for myself and my needs. And I'm so grateful to also be in a family that was able to support me in that journey. And I know this is not the reality for everyone. And as a community in this channel, number one, we are lovers of education. So we need to advocate for people to get the right education. But also as human beings, we need to advocate for people to have truly equitable education, education that's truly equal for everyone. And that's something that I honestly wish that I'm hoping to strive towards to and to advocate for. And I'm just hoping this story is a stepping stone for something bigger and beyond me. So today I'll be talking about my journey with my disorder, how I've not necessarily overcome it because you can't really overcome it, but how I've stopped defining myself by it and stopped defining my lack of achievements by it. So if you are interested in that, let's get started. So my journey starts in grade 3. In grade 3, I was transitioning to a new school. And the requirement of this new school was that you needed to get evaluated by an educational psychologist to see if you need any help when it came to to your academics. So that means that if you needed any help in your reading, your writing, your spelling, your comprehension skills, this is the place where like the school evaluates and see like, do you need extra support? So after my evaluation, my results showed that I was behind in my reading as well as in my writing. So my fine motor skills and when it came to writing was below average as well as my reading skills. So this allowed me to enter OT for my writing skills, as well as I'm assuming, I'm not sure, I was in grade 3, but I'm assuming some form of speech therapist to help me with my reading. Now, I did this until I was in grade 7. So in grade 7 here in South Africa, it's when we start high school. So in grade 7, that's when all of those kind of extra help stopped. And that's when like I think my disorder became a bit more obvious to my teachers, because at that point during kind of like from grade 3 to grade 6, I was like a good student. Like I'm a very perseverant person. I like trying as much as I can. When I do something, I'll never stop something halfway. I always push myself to finish something. um and I was getting some form of support whether it came to my OT or my speech therapist, so I was getting those supports. So I don't think my disorder was glaringly obvious. I wasn't formally diagnosed in grade 3. I was just told that I'm just a bit behind, and I think at that point the mindset was just that if I just practiced a bit more in my reading and my writing, I would improve and become and like catch up to my peers, because I always used to score a bit more above average when it came to comprehension skills. So meaning that I have the ability to understand things relatively quickly. So it never really affected me academically, my disorder, in terms of at that point in my academics. It never affected me. My disorder wasn't really obvious enough to affect my marks, let me say that. It never was like glaringly obvious that I have something that's hindering me, because I was getting like a bit of support here and there. So I think by grade 6, I was like already like a good student. So I think at that point they thought like, okay, she's fine. We can stop OT. We can stop the reading therapist lady. She's good. And then I entered grade 7, and in grade 7, again, same kind of trend, but it started to become a bit obvious that when it came to like linguistic subjects, so my English, my Xhosa, my Afrikaans marks were always like below the class average and below average. But then when it came to kind of my logical like marks, so my life sciences, my maths marks, those are usually my highest marks. And so it just became a trend of like, I think a lot of my teachers were like, we seeing there's a trend that's going on with her where like English, like if I got an English homework, I would do really good at it. But if I had done an English test, I would do really bad at it. And it was kind of like a trend of like my teachers like noticing that like her marks are kind of sporadic. They're never like evenly like the same. But again, just because I wasn't like a bad student, like I wasn't like the bottom of my class bad student, it was never that it was never associated with anything wrong with me academically, like ever like some sort of hindrance. It was just me being like, oh, maybe she just like she maybe just like needs to apply herself a bit more when it comes to that, or like she needs to like practice her understanding of stuff. Like she needs to like I think she's just like reading things too fastly, and she's not reading it slow enough to understand the question. That was actually one comment the teacher says, like, you read, and like I can see in your test you're reading your questions too quickly. You need to slow down when you're answering. But I was like, and when I was doing the test, I knew I wasn't reading those questions very quickly. I knew I was reading those questions very slowly. So I still didn't understand like why I was trying so hard to like do well and to read properly and to push myself when it came to that, but my marks never reflected that. So this carried on until my whole high school career, until I reached grade 11. And grade 11, I was blessed with an amazing teacher who saw the same trend as all my other teachers did, that I was doing very well in like maths and physiological sciences and life sciences. But then when it came to like English and Xhosa and life orientation to some extent, I was doing bad at it. And it wasn't understandable because like, like as a society, unfortunately, we associate maths as being like, oh, intelligence marker or a marker of intelligence, how good you are in maths. So it's like she's technically doing like well in these things that we associate with like being good in critical understanding and able to comprehend, good comprehension. But when she comes to her English stuff, it doesn't translate well. So what's going on here? And like instead of, and she was the first person to like suggest like I need to go to get evaluated in. And a lot of my teachers were like, Lita, like she's not a bad student, she just like sometimes doesn't get what she's writing, but she's not a bad student. And but she was like the first person to be like, no, I think she really needs to get evaluated again. I think she like she needs to get evaluated again. And yeah, and I got called to the principal's office, and I was so scared because I'm a goody two shoes. I'm like quiet McGee. I do my own things. I never bother anyone. Why am I going being called to the principal's office? But I got called, and they gave me a letter to get evaluated to get to my parents. And my mom got it, and she's like, they want you to get evaluated. I was like, evaluated for what? And like, yeah, and so they referred me to an educational psychologist again, and I did a bunch of tests. I did a bunch of exercises, and it turned out that I have a reading learning disorder. To be more specific, that my reading skills are underdeveloped, meaning that I'll always be behind academically, or not academically, I'll always be behind in my reading skills compared to kids my age. Like at that point, I was told that I have the reading skills of a 13-year-old, and I was like 16 at that time. So I I was like crushed, honestly. I was crushed, but also relieved because, like, finally, things were making sense. Like, it wasn't that I wasn't trying hard enough. It wasn't that I wasn't applying myself hard enough. It was just literally how my brain is structured, that my brain cannot read to the adequate level that I needed to at the age that I was in. And um like, even though it was like, when you hear that as a 16-year-old, you obviously think like, yo, I'm not smart, or like I'm so like, yo, I can never do anything, because like obviously if I can't read, then I can't do anything. And I felt really down about my academic like how am I going to achieve academically. And but then also I I really just love science though, and like it was crushing for me because it, it was coming like a possibility that I wouldn't be able to do science if I couldn't able to read. And like, because even the educational psychologist, after he was like explaining my diagnosis, he asked me what do I want to do after I leave high school. And I told him like I really love like biosciences, like medical sciences. I really like to do something in that realm. And he told me that I need to kind of aim for something a bit less harder, less challenging for me. Like, oh, like do like a quick varsity course in something. But I was like, no. I was like, no, I really love this. This is like something that I really love to do. And I honestly didn't want to give up on that dream, and did not want to give up on medical sciences. And so after that guy told me that I need to aim a bit lower, not me completely being determined to prove him wrong, and to be like, I told you so, and like, so at that point I worked my bum off. I am always, like I said before, I'm always a person who applied herself, but now I knew what my problem was, and I worked hard, even against it actually to some points, but I worked hard with it. I I got to reader for my exams and tests, even though honestly I did not like that. I kind of dropped them near the end of my matric year. I was like, don't want that. But I also got 10 minutes per hour for extra time when it came to writing tests and exams, and that really helped because I honestly just needed more time to read, and that 10 minutes allowed me to break down words, to understand what the word structure is, and understand like what the question is asking me from. And after I got diagnosed, my marks shoo, skyrocketed like no other. Like I think I improved by like 20% in most of my marks. And yeah, like I was able to achieve so much after I got diagnosed. Like I became a very good, like a top marker earner in my class. um Even like in my matric year I got an A for English, so a subject that I was like literally dying every time I did. I got an A for it. Like what, you know? And it was like so unbelievable, and I left high school feeling on a high, like yeah, I can do anything that I want. And honestly, at that point I ignored my disorder. I was like, okay, see, I did it and I have a disorder, but now I'm gonna pretend like it didn't exist when I enter university. And that's what I did, unfortunately. When I entered university, I didn't apply for my extra time, and I didn't apply for the assistances that I could get with my disorder. Now, I honestly felt like I did myself a disservice because I like my whole university career I never like took extra time or anything, or anything. And like I'm still like a master student so like academically it didn't really stop me that much from achieving, but there's always that what if I just put my pride aside and I just accepted what I had, and I just like used the benefits, or not the benefits, like the resources I have to achieve, to use them. But my pride like just took over, and I didn't use my extra time. But I've managed my whole academic career afterwards, so it wasn't like that bad of a setback. But also there are some tests and some things that I did where I felt like, "Ugh, I wish I had more time." And things like I did have more time. I did. Like I could get more time and I didn't take it because just pride is such a bad thing. My goodness gracious me. And it's just like it stops you so much from just like grabbing opportunities, you know? And but like I'm here today as a master student, hopefully gonna be a graduate end of this year. And I'm like, and I'm looking back at my life honestly, and I'm looking back at the opportunities that I was given, and I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful. I with my teacher, I'm gonna say with Miss October, that was the teacher who advocated for me at that point in my life. She did something that I couldn't do for myself, and she advocated for my education. That's kind of like I want to be that for someone else. I want this channel not just only be a channel where you can get information about university or medical school or whatever, but I just want it to be a channel that advocates for equal education and equitable education for everyone. And Lord knows I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but as I said, I hope this story is a stepping stone for that. And I hope by sharing my story, I'm allowing you as people to be empowered in your disability, to advocate for your education, for educators to advocate for the students' education, and to live in a society where we truly support students where they are, not where we want them to be at. And yeah, that's this video, I guess. Yeah, for me this is kind of a lot for me. I try not to be so personal because part of me it's like sharing this part of my like academic career. I'm also scared that it might discourage you as viewers for wanting to view my context, because as I like, this channel is about education and about helping you during your educational years. And if like I was like, I'm scared that you see this part of my journey and think that I'm not a good source of information anymore. But I hopefully you won't think that. Hopefully you'd feel some form of like calmness in knowing that I'm not a perfect student. I'm not a super genius academic, whatever, whatever. I am a person in this realm who wants to fight for you to have as much information and as much empowerment and education as you can have. And yeah, that's just like the story. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you watched this far, comment down below if you know someone who has some form of educational disability or disorder. Did the school that they went to provide them any support? Do you think you may have an educational disability of support? Do you feel like you've been underdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all? Do you feel like you want some resources when it comes to first getting diagnosed and then getting the support you need? Ooh, what do you need? Like, what do you need as a student? And let me know down below. Honestly, I don't know what can I do with that information, but I also just want to know your mind and know where you're coming from. But yeah, I hope the story sparks something in someone. But also, I hope the story shows you that academia is multifaceted and multi-layered, and just because you may have something that may be outwardly hindering your success doesn't mean it has to, doesn't mean that you're limited by it, it doesn't mean that you can't achieve all that you want to achieve, but you need the support, and I can be that for you. um thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.